Well, it really has been an incredible journey. Over the last few weeks, I've seen some of Britain's most spectacular landscapes, from the windswept Scilly Isles to the rainforests of Scotland, and the wildlife hasn't disappointed either. In this episode, I want to revisit some of my favourite moments. What an amazing year it's been, exploring wild Britain. I've really been surprised at how many success stories I've encountered to do with conservation. From the reintroduction of the majestic great bustard to the protection of our rarest amphibian, the great crested newt. I've met creatures I've never seen before and had memorable sightings of a few favourites. There's the well, look. My journey has taken me to some of our most outstanding areas of natural beauty across the British Isles. You know, if you're exploring the natural history of Britain, you really mustn't forget the marine environment. Some of the most incredible experiences are to be had here. Certainly for me, one of those was getting up close and personal with our largest shark. It's an experience that I will never forget. The basking shark is the world's second largest fish, and this one was feeding on plankton around the Inner Hebrides. Adult basking sharks can reach lengths of 12 meters. That's longer than a double-decker bus. The cameraman and I dropped in ahead of the shark so that it could approach us, not the other way round. But you can never tell just how close the shark might choose to come. A basking shark can filter half the volume of an Olympic-sized swimming pool in an hour through gill rakers which extend between 5 gill slits on each side of its head. Incredibly impressive. It's all muscle, it's latent energy, it's almost perfection in streamlining. When you're in there, the visibility is quite poor, so all this micro light coming towards you, and then all of a sudden, out of the murk, there's this leviathan, this great thing of the deep. It's really impressive. And as it goes past you, just gives the just tiniest movement of its tail, and it's gone. Even though it only eats plankton, it's a shark. It's a little unnerving to be so close to a large shark like that. Well, it's no threat to me. Maybe there's some memory in the brain of a movie watched, or maybe it's something even more ancient than that, but that profile of shark is really something. But the basking shark was just one of many special moments with the wildlife of West Scotland. With a wingspan of up to 2.5 meters, the white-tailed eagle is our largest bird of prey. There are around 60 pairs in West Scotland, and about a quarter live here on the Isle of Mull, where I joined David Sexton of the RSPB at a nest site. Hello, David. How are you doing?
Hi, Ray. Good to see you.
Oh, look at that.
We've got a lovely family scene for you here. The female has come in to watch and stand guard over her chicks. I mean, we're still calling them chicks, but they're only a week off being fully grown. There's 2 chicks in there. Lots of preening and feather care going on at the moment, getting ready for that first big flight.
So what are they being fed at the moment?
Most of what's coming in at the moment is a combination of fish, seabirds, things like gulls and fulmars and guillemots and razorbill. Oh,
here comes the other bird.
No, it's a buzzard mobbing
them.
Yeah.
She doesn't seem too perturbed.
No.
So it's seabirds and fish mainly that they're being fed on?
Yeah, and mammals. So on Mull, that would be things like hares and rabbits coming in. And this pair have brought in mink, in fact, in the past, which is quite an interesting prey item.
Amazing.
The white-tailed eagle was returned to the Scottish landscape after an absence of more than 50 years. But one native mammal is now back in the lochs of Argyll for the first time in 400 years.
That is fantastic. You see this piece of wood that's been cut here? That has not been cut with an axe. That has been chewed through by a beaver. You can see here quite clearly the very sharp gouge marks left by their teeth as they've chewed through it. And native people who used to trap the beaver in the old days would collect the teeth and use them to make woodworking tools. They were that good. And they were used right up until the arrival of metal tools as part of the fur trade. That is a wonderful sight. Only thing now is to find some signs of the beaver themselves.
In 2009, 3 beaver families were brought over from Norway and released as part of the Scottish beaver trial. Beavers are industrious at night, and this one was heading out to feed before getting to work. I didn't want to disturb it during its dinner time, so I settled down to watch from a distance.
Sight. You can see it swimming across now. It's marvellous the way they swim though. Their nose is up and their eyes, their heads are flat so they can keep their nose up when they're swimming and still see what they're up to.
In summer, beavers feed mainly on aquatic plants, grasses and shrubs, but later in the year they will power their way through woody plants.
There are 2 now. They're out there. Early evening patrol. Seeing these beavers, it just tells me how possible it is to reintroduce a species, to correct wrongs done in the past. It gives hope that we won't mess everything up. Sometimes we do some good things, and I think this is likely to be one of them. Because the beaver has such profound impact on its environment to the benefit of other species.
We associate rainforest more commonly with tropical regions. But the West Highlands of Scotland is, in fact, one of only 7 areas of temperate rainforest in the world. It was here that I got the chance to observe one of my favourite species of deer.
That's wonderful. These are seeker deer. You can see that from this distance, from that strong black stripe that runs down their spine. Now, the seeker's not a native deer. It's been naturalised, but they're really very much here to stay now.
British sika deer originate from Japan. Their name in Japanese, shika, means deer.
I think it heard the camera. The camera whirs almost imperceptibly, but to a sika deer's sharp ears in this super quiet Celtic forest, it stood out of the ordinary, unusual, enough to pique the interest of the deer and make it take the cautious path and retreat. That's what keeps them alive. You've got to respect them. Sika deer are without a doubt our most adaptable woodland deer species. They're full of personality. I love them.
As I continued my journey south into England and Wales, I discovered unusual animals in the unlikeliest of places.
I'm going down here in search of a really interesting creature.
Wow, tight in here. Now that's the first sign that I've seen of what I'm looking for. Is the egg sac of the cave spider, one of our largest spiders. What I really want to see is the spider itself. In fact, now there's the spider. In fact, all around me there are spiders. This isn't for the faint-hearted, I have to tell you. Now these cave spiders, if you agitate them or irritate them, they can bite. They are mildly venomous. But it's their silk that is really interesting. It's got the most elastic silk in the spider world. It's astonishing stuff, and it's being studied because people think we may be able to use it to help repair torn and broken ligaments in the future. A secret from the depths of the caves in the Yorkshire Dales. Across the border in Wales, I took a trip down the River Wye. The diversity of species here makes the Wye one of the most important river systems in Northern Europe.
There's one creature, and it's an unusual one, that the Wye is really famous for. Now to see that, I need to wade out into the river. And what I've brought with me is this bucket that's got perspex set in the bottom. If I put that onto the water, I can see through the reflections, and that's perfect because it means I should get a good view of these fish without disturbing them. Okay. I saw a flash of movement just here. There. Now that is amazing. That is such a good view and an incredible creatures. These are sea lamprey. They're making a nest in the river bottom so that they can spawn.
Sea lampreys migrate to spawn in fresh water at the end of their lives. Males and females work together to build nests in the sand and gravel.
And they grasp the rocks with their sucker. They don't have a conventional mouth. They don't have a jaw. They have this strange mouth arrangement that enables them to latch on to other fish. And they have teeth that look like a rasp with which they can create an opening in their host and suck out nutrients.
The female here is clamped to a rock to secure herself in the fast-flowing water. You can see the male entwine himself around her. The female is releasing her eggs, and the cloud you see is the sperm. That's spawning. It's an incredible sight.
What an amazing thing to see. And the lovely thing is I can peer into their world with this super device without causing them any disturbance. And that to me is the epitome of observing wildlife, is to do so without disturbing it.
But one ancient creature I met owes its survival to a very different type of disturbance. Salisbury Plain in Wiltshire is dominated by one of our rarest habitats, chalk grassland. Surrounded by small-scale agriculture, the landscape has been shaped by its human history.
Perhaps the most important influence here has been that of the military. This is Britain's largest training area with 38,000 hectares. And one of the unexpected side effects of that training is to provide an incredible sanctuary for wildlife. Ian, how are you getting on?
Oh, hi, Ray.
Ian Perkins, a conservation officer with the Ministry of Defence, introduced me to the fairy shrimp, a creature that dates back 500 million years, but today is found in the temporary puddles created by tank manoeuvres.
So tell me about the fairy shrimps, because they're fascinating.
They're very old creatures, one of the oldest creatures on the planet. They're crustaceans.
They're really bright green, aren't they?
That's because they're filter feeders, and they filter all the algae within the pond, which turns them bright green. If you can see, the males have claspers, and the females have egg sacs, so they're completely different.
So the claspers enable the males to literally clasp the female when they're mating?
That's perfect, yes.
My understanding that with these fairy shrimp, they can actually survive drought conditions. Although they're a pond species, they can cope with the pond drying out completely. Is that right?
That's right. The eggs remain dormant.
And how long can they do that for?
Well, we know definitely for 5 years. It could be longer.
So a tank comes along, creates this pond, creates a gully, and when it fills with rain, these eggs hatch out.
That's right. There are fairy shrimp's eggs all across Salisbury Plain, and all it means is a tank to make the habitat for them, and then they go.
It just shows that how things can evolve to exploit even the tiniest opportunities.
Tanks stop training on Salisbury Plain, these would quite easily scrub up.
They disappear.
And disappear, yeah.
Discovering the wildlife in dense, ancient woodland on the Isle of Wight was always going to be a challenge. But with the right equipment and a bit of patience, the animals began to emerge.
That is a fantastic sight. Our native red squirrel in deciduous woodland. That's a rare thing to see in Britain. Normally now you find the red squirrels confined to areas where it's mostly conifers. Without deer trails, it's almost impossible to move silently through these woods. But this dense vegetation has benefits. It's fantastic habitat for small mammals. All the way through here, there should be wood mice, dormice, voles, and of course, the small mammal predators, weasels and stoats.
There was one of our larger, charismatic mammals that I really hoped to see. Badgers are rarely out during the day, but a well-positioned camera trap revealed this one coming out of its set at 4 p.m. in the summer. But the camera captured not just one badger, but 2, then 3, and then, wait for it, 4 badgers. With this much activity during daylight, I decided it was definitely worth finding a good position and hoping that I'd get lucky.
amazing. I don't need a binocular. I don't know why people go overseas to watch wildlife. It's so brilliant in Britain.
I really enjoyed filming Wild Britain this year, particularly because I've been able to delve into the summer, not just the spring. Britain is a remarkable country, and the more I see of it, the more I feel that. It's somewhere we really must cherish. We have to fight all the time to preserve wild places, because in wild places is hope. Hope that we will really come to understand our role in nature and the influence we have upon it.